guys cannot re-verify their data once they've shot it one day and go out and try to return the same data, let's say a week later.
If they want to obtain the same data, then they're going to have to make sure that the wind direction and the wind speed is the same on different days. Otherwise, obviously, if the wind speed is different and the wind direction is different, then they're going to have different results. So at best, you need stationary air, you need no wind, so that you've got no wind and no wind direction. And then that variable can be taken out, kind of thing.
And one of the common issues that we see is the Coriolis effect. And what guys are not doing is taking into account the effect that this can have on your shooting at longer ranges. Now, real quick, let's kind of just explain the Coriolis effect in layman's terms. The Coriolis effect is the effect that when the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, it is actually leaving the surface of the earth. So as the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, the earth is still rotating, and the bullet is not rotating with the earth. So the earth will actually rotate out from underneath of the bullet while it is in flight. So as the earth rotates, it actually rotates from the west to the east. So what that's going to do to our targets is if you're shooting west, your target's going to rotate up and towards us, which is going to cause the bullets to hit lower. And if you're facing east, the target's going to be dropping and slightly moving away, which is going to cause the hits to be higher. Now, why this is important is out to 1,000 yards, you could have almost a full minute of correction due to Coriolis effect, depending on which direction you sighted in your zero.
Okay, so what he just says there is completely and utterly wrong. That is not the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect is not the Earth rotating underneath an object. The Coriolis effect is basically moving from one tangential velocity to another tangential velocity. This is why a helicopter hovering or a hot air balloon hovering will see no drift, because it's hovering, it's not moving from one tangential velocity to another. Therefore, there is no Coriolis effect. So the Coriolis effect is basically moving from one tangential velocity to another. So say how people say that the Earth rotates 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. That is not a rotational speed, it's not an angular velocity, it's a tangential velocity. So obviously they say 1,000 miles an hour at the equator tangential velocity, and as you go north or south it decreases. So that's why the Coriolis effect only happens north to south and south to north, because if you have, say if you was on the equator, you would have 1,000 miles an hour tangential velocity, and it will keep that 1,000 miles an hour tangential velocity. But as it moves north or south, the ground has a different tangential velocity at different points. Therefore, Coriolis effect, that's what causes the Coriolis effect. It's nothing to do with east to west. At best, that would be the Epox effect, not Coriolis effect.
Now, to show you guys just how much effect there's going to be, we're going to put on a little shooting demonstration here. I've got targets east or west and east of us, exactly 1,000 yards in each direction. So what we're going to do to prove this Coriolis effect on our rifle here is we're going to shoot it out to 1,000 to the west, and we're going to shoot it to 1,000 to the east.
Again, he is not demonstrating Coriolis effect, because Coriolis effect does not happen east to west.
And we're going to measure the difference in those group centers, and hopefully it's going to show you guys that this kind of error can lead to bigger errors in your drop data. All right, got 3 hits on the steel down there. We're gonna switch directions, switch the bents over, and we're gonna shoot east now. All right, we got 3 more hits on this steel down here. Now we're gonna rack up all our gear. We're gonna go check these out, measure them up, show you the results. All right, we've made it down to our target that we shot at the west. This is our west target here. And as you can see, they've all dropped in quite low. We've got 8 inches from center to the center of the group. which is a little lower than we expected, but we were dealing with some pretty stiff mirage.
Okay, so he blames the mirage for it hitting lower than expected. So he's saying the mirage essentially made the target appear lower, therefore he shot lower, so therefore it's lower than expected. Also, you have 3 shots here, and one of your shots is over to the right. That should not even happen. You shouldn't have a shot over to the right. I mean, it shouldn't really be a wind speed or a wind direction change because of how quick you took the shots. So therefore, because you're not shooting north, there should be no deflection to the right. Yet somehow you've got a bullet go to the right. How did that work? Your aiming can't be that good, mate.
So we got a nice little group here. We're gonna pack up this target, head down to our target that we shot to the east, and we'll compare the 2 groups and show you the difference of just switching directions. That's all we did. We switched from west to east. All right, we've made it down to our target on the east target now, and as you can see, they're not quite too high. We've got about 3 inches, maybe 3.5 to the center of the group above bullseye. So if we compare this to our other target, we're 3 inches high here, we're 8 inches low there.
3 inches high and 8 inches low. It should be the same, shouldn't it? If it's 3 inches on one side, then it should be 3 inches on the other side. Unless you think the Earth's rotating faster one direction than the other direction. It should be the same amount. But I suppose if you blame the mirage for the target appearing lower, then therefore you aimed lower because the target was lower and therefore the bullets hit lower than expected. I suppose you could explain it that way. Again, you've got it drifting to the right. You're not shooting north, so you should not have no bullet drifting to the right. So I don't really understand what you think is going on here, because it should just be up and down from the target that you're aiming at. There should be no deflection to the right. Again, you're not shooting to the north, so there should be no deflection to the right. So why you've got deflection to the right is beyond me.
That's 11 inches, just over a minute of difference between just shooting from the west to the east. Now, how does this affect you and your data? 1 minute with this 7 LRM that we're shooting at 1,000 yards is worth 70 feet per second.
Also, we don't even know if the ground that you was doing it on was level and if the targets were even level with each other. You know what I mean? You never showed that the targets were actually in line with each other, that there was actually the same level, the same height, you know? You never told us that, you never showed us that, you never showed us the wind speed, you showed us absolutely nothing, to be honest, mate. So if anybody has any demonstrations of Coriolis with during shooting and that can actually demonstrate where they take all the wind speed, the wind direction, and they take into consideration the level of the land, making sure it's level, making sure that the targets are in line with each other. Until that, you haven't really proved anything, mate. All you've done is prove that you can shoot a gun. Well done.